9, 1941, a German submarine made the most costly mistake of World War II. U-110, attacked by British destroyers in the North Atlantic, should have sunk with all its secrets. But something extraordinary happened. The German crew, in total panic, abandoned the submarine without destroying its most precious cargo, a completely intact Enigma machine, along with its codebooks and the month's cipher keys. This single moment of human failure handed the Allies the key to breaking the most secret German naval code, instantly transforming the course of the war in the Atlantic. What the Germans considered mathematically impossible to decipher was now in British hands. The irony was devastating. German arrogance about the invincibility of their encryption system had created the very loophole that would lead to their defeat. This error was not just an operational slip-up. It was the moment the German submarine war began to lose its lethal advantage. To understand the magnitude of this error, we need to grasp what the Enigma machine was. Originally developed for commercial use in the 1920s, the Enigma was adapted by the German military as the world's most sophisticated encryption system. With 3 interchangeable rotors, each with 26 positions, and a reflector that duplicated the encoding process, the machine could generate over 150 trillion different combinations. The Germans were convinced that even if a machine fell into enemy hands, it would be impossible to break the code without knowing the specific daily settings. Each German submarine carried not only the machine, but also codebooks that changed settings monthly, and daily instruction sheets that determined exactly how to set the rotors. It was a layered security system that seemed impenetrable. German confidence was so absolute that they transmitted their most sensitive communications through this system, including submarine positions, priority targets, and attack coordinates. U-110 was no ordinary submarine. Commanded by Captain Lieutenant Fritz Julius Lemp, the same officer who had sunk the passenger liner Athenia on the first day of the war, this Type IXB was one of the Kriegsmarine's most experienced units. In May 1941, German submarines were at the height of their devastating campaign against Allied convoys. They called this period the happy time, when a single submarine could sink dozens of merchant ships on a single patrol. U-110 had just attacked convoy Ob 318, sinking 2 merchant ships, when it was detected by the escort destroyers HMS Bulldog and HMS Broadway. What followed was a classic submarine hunt, depth charges exploding around the submarine, forcing it to surface damaged. But here began the sequence of errors that would change history. Lemp, wounded and disoriented, gave the order to abandon ship, but failed to execute the most basic Kriegsmarine protocol: destroy all classified materials before abandonment. Commander Joe Baker Creswell of HMS Bulldog immediately realized something was wrong. U-110 had surfaced but was not sinking. His naval experience told him that German submarines always sank quickly after being abandoned, either by scuttling charges or open valves. But this one remained afloat, seemingly intact. Baker Creswell made a decision that violated all British naval protocols. Instead of continuing the attack to ensure the submarine's destruction, he ordered a boarding party to be prepared. It was an enormous risk. German submarines often carried scuttling charges with timers, and boarding one could mean certain death. But something in U-110's behavior suggested the Germans had made a fatal error. The boarding party, led by Sub-Lieutenant David Bombay, just 20 years old, rowed towards the enemy submarine unaware that they were about to make the most important discovery of the naval war. When Bombay and his team descended through U-110's hatch, they found a completely abandoned but surprisingly intact submarine. There were no signs of sabotage attempts. The Germans had simply fled. In the radio room, Bombay found something that made him stop breathing: an Enigma machine still connected, with the day's settings still adjusted. Beside it, piles of documents that any German sailor should have immediately destroyed: naval codebooks, daily setting sheets, and most importantly, the keys for May 1941. It was like finding a bank vault open with all the money still inside. Bombay, trained in intelligence capture procedures, systematically began collecting everything. He didn't know exactly what he had in his hands, but he knew it was important. The Enigma machine weighed about 26 pounds, and the documents filled several waterproof bags. For 40 minutes, while U-110 dangerously swayed on the waves of the North Atlantic, the British team plundered the most closely guarded secrets of Nazi Germany. What Bombay had captured was far more valuable than a simple encryption machine. The codebooks revealed not only how to operate the Enigma, but also the Kriegsmarine's specific procedures for submarine communications. The daily setting sheets showed exactly how the rotors should be adjusted for each day of the month. Even more crucially, the documents included bigram tables, special codes used to transmit geographical coordinates even more securely. It was a treasure trove of intelligence that the cryptanalysts at Bletchley Park had dreamed of obtaining. When the materials arrived in England, they were immediately transported to the Government Code and Cipher School, where brilliant mathematicians like Alan Turing worked feverishly to break the German codes. Turing had developed a machine called Bomb that could test thousands of Enigma settings per hour, but he still needed clues about the correct settings. The U-110 materials provided exactly those clues, allowing the British to read German naval communications almost in real time. The transformation was immediate and devastating for the Germans. Within weeks of U-110's capture, the British began intercepting and decoding German operational orders even before they reached submarines at sea. They knew where U-boats were positioned, which convoy routes were being targeted, and when new attacks would be launched. The British Admiralty could now redirect convoys to avoid U-boat wolf packs or send hunter-killers directly to known U-boat positions. Statistics tell the brutal story. In April 1941, before the capture, the Germans sank 195 Allied ships. In June, just 2 months later, that number dropped to only 58 ships. German submarine commanders began reporting something disturbing. Allied convoys seemed to be avoiding their positions with impossible precision, and anti-submarine hunters appeared at their exact coordinates without explanation. Karl Dönitz, commander of the German submarine force, suspected intelligence leaks, but never imagined that the German codes themselves had been compromised. The psychological impact on German submariners was devastating. Men who once hunted Allied convoys with deadly confidence now found themselves being hunted with terrifying precision. Captain Zur See Otto Kretschmer, the ace of German submarines with over 200,000 tons of ships sunk, was captured in March 1941 when British destroyers appeared at his exact position. Günther Prien, a German national hero who had penetrated the Scapa Flow naval base, mysteriously disappeared when anti-submarine hunters intercepted his U-47 with surgical precision. Joachim Schepke, another ace with over 200,000 tons sunk, died when his submarine was rammed by a destroyer that knew exactly where to find him. These were not accidents or Allied luck. It was the direct result of the British ability to read German communications. German submariners began to speak of a curse that had fallen upon the submarine force. They did not know that the curse had a name. Ultra, the British code name for the intelligence derived from breaking the Enigma code. At Bletchley Park, the atmosphere was one of controlled euphoria. Alan Turing and his team had achieved something the Germans considered mathematically impossible. The bomb machines worked 24 hours a day, processing German radio intercepts and producing decryptions that were sent directly to the Admiralty. But success brought a terrible moral dilemma. The British now knew about German attacks before they happened, but using this information too obviously would reveal that they had broken the code. They developed an elaborate system of covered sources. Reconnaissance planes were sent to discover German convoys that had already been located through Ultra. Ships were accidentally redirected to avoid attacks. It was a deadly game of chess where the British knew all of the opponent's moves but had to pretend they were guessing. Winston Churchill, informed about Ultra, called the cryptanalysts of Bletchley Park the geese that laid golden eggs but never cackled. The secret was so well kept that even senior naval officers did not know of the operation's existence. U-110's error had consequences that extended far beyond the Battle of the Atlantic. The ability to read German communications allowed the Allies to anticipate troop movements, discover battle plans, and coordinate operations with impossible precision before. In preparation for D-Day, Ultra revealed that Hitler had been completely deceived about the landing site, keeping his best divisions in Pas-de-Calais while the Allies landed in Normandy. In the Pacific, similar techniques allowed the Americans to intercept and shoot down Admiral Yamamoto's plane, the architect of the Pearl Harbor attack. The war that should have lasted years was significantly shortened. Historians estimate that breaking the Enigma code reduced the war's duration by at least 2 years, saving millions of lives. The error of a few panicked German sailors in the North Atlantic had changed the course of world history. Fritz Julius Lemp, the commander of U-110, never knew the impact of his failure. He drowned trying to swim back to his submarine to destroy codes it was already too late to save. Today, the Enigma machine captured from U-110 is on display at the Imperial War Museum in London, a silent testament to how a single moment of human error can alter the fate of nations. The operation that captured these materials, codenamed Primrose, remained classified for over 30 years after the end of the war. When it was finally revealed, the world understood the true magnitude of what had happened that May Day in the North Atlantic. It was not just the capture of a machine or some documents. It was the moment when German technological arrogance met Allied determination and brilliance, resulting in a turning point that saved Western civilization. The lesson remains relevant today. In war, as in life, it is often the simplest mistakes that have the most profound consequences. U-110 should have sunk with its secrets, but the human failure of a few panicked sailors handed the Allies the key to victory. Sometimes, the fate of humanity depends not on grand strategies or revolutionary technologies, but on moments of human fallibility that change everything.